Hutchison Whampoa in talks to sell ParknShop. Trying to strike a balance over copyrights involving parody. And Barack Obama speaks out over Florida killing verdict.
Hello, and we'll have those stories in a moment. But first, a loud explosion was heard at Beijing Capital International Airport about an hour ago. Xinhua News Agency says it happened at Terminal 3. No word yet on what caused the incident. Also, no word yet on how many people were hurt. Well, let's go now to our top story of the day. Leading conglomerate Hutchison Whampoa is now in talks to sell its ParknShop supermarket chain. Hutchison Whampoa is part of Li Ka-shing's business empire, but as Evelina Leung reports, the company denies suggestions it's withdrawing its business from Hong Kong.
Hong Kong's richest man was mobbed by the media outside his home this morning. Hutchison Whampoa chairman Li Ka-shing said the talks are part of normal business operations. He denied there were any political considerations, or it's because he's not a fan of Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying. Li supported Leung's rival Henry Tang in last year's CE election. According to the Wall Street Journal, Hutchison Whampoa was planning to sell the supermarket chain for $1 to $2 billion US. In a statement today, the company confirmed that its subsidiary A.S. Watson is conducting a strategic review of the retail business under ParknShop to optimize value for shareholders. It also says the review may not necessarily result in any transactions. The conglomerate also made clear it does not intend to withdraw from Hong Kong, calling such market speculation groundless. Revenue at ParknShop reached $21.7 billion last year. Secretary for Development Paul Chan believes this is simply a business decision and denied there's any bad blood between the tycoon and the government. Politicians also waded in.
On one hand, we appreciate every businessman want to get profits, but every citizen in Hong Kong hope that every big corporate leader should have that kind of what we call a social corporate responsibility. Because on one hand, you get the profit, and on the other hand, you should do something that good to the community.
We are worried that there will be a labor dispute arising out of this case. Because the withdrawal of business, then selling to other business, we are worried that the workers now are employed by ParknShop would not be employed by the new employer.
Legislator and businessman Michael Tian, meanwhile, doesn't believe the local retail industry is facing a lot of challenges right now.
In fact, the only challenge it's facing now is shortage of labor and escalating rental, both of which are good things because it's an indicator that it's booming and it's prosperous.
Evelina Leung, TVB News.
Copyright law is a touchy subject with the creative community. Speaking to TVB News today, the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development said a new round of consultation on the issue looks at how to balance freedom of expression through parody and protecting intellectual property rights. Parodies like these have been circulating in society, mocking politicians and satirizing current affairs. Their creators, who took inspiration from films, songs or advertisements, accused the government of stifling creativity when amendments to the copyright law were proposed last year. With a new round of consultation launched on copyright issues surrounding these derivative works, Gregory So emphasized that the goal is not to quash freedom of expression.
I look at some of these parody work and I just have a good chuckle. We want to balance the interest between copyright owner and also other, the public in using some of these materials.
Options up for discussion include exempting works for non-commercial purposes from criminal liability. Another is to add a fair dealings clause used by other countries that takes factors such as the nature of the work and the impact on the market of the source material into consideration. But So rejected the idea of a blanket exemption.
There are really infringing activities on a commercial scale, then we must, comply with international obligation and come in with a criminal procedure. So we can't have a blanket exemption. We have to have some preconditions. So what are these preconditions is what we want to consult the public about.
He refused to say if the government will bring back the amendments put forward last year, only stating that this is a separate consultation that deals with parodies only. He called on the public to put their suggestions forward before the consultation period ends in mid-October. A number of businesses were found to have breached tougher consumer protection regulations that took effect yesterday. Still, authorities believe education and enforcement could help deter unfair trade practices in the long run. Rani Samtani reports.
It's only been a day since the amended Trade Descriptions Ordinance came into effect, and inquiries and complaints have already started flooding in. Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development Gregory So said the revised ordinance is a milestone when it comes to consumer protection in Hong Kong.
I believe this ordinance is about empowerment, empowering the consumers in making informed decision in the purchase, being provided with the necessary information, and make good choices.
The Customs and Excise Department and the Consumer Council say they received more than 100 inquiries and a handful of complaints yesterday. They say the amended ordinance has already started to curb unfair trade practices. But some frontline officers have expressed confusion towards the new measures, such as what constitutes a criminal offense.
For frontline officers, there is a challenge. I admit the fact that, but this kind of challenge will come with whatever new regulatory regime. Our communication with frontline officers is that all these amendments, in fact, are trying to enable them to do their job easier and do it better.
Chung believes customs officers will be able to learn through experiences over time to deal with various cases. And, like So, the customs chief spoke about empowering consumers.
Our success is not measured by the number of prosecutions. In fact, we do not believe that this is the most desirable outcome. Our strategy of enforcement is anchored upon prevention, education, and enforcement. We believe that by empowering the industry, by educating consumers, we can actually prevent a lot of these potential offenses.
Chung believes traders will gradually adapt to the new regulations and that over time the number of complaints will decrease as well. Rani Samtani, TVB News.
Turning overseas now, US President Barack Obama says America needs to take a hard look at itself following the death of black teenager Trayvon Martin and the acquittal of his shooter. In a rare public reflection on race, Obama empathized with the pain of many black Americans, saying he could have been in Martin's shoes when he was a teenager. When US President Barack Obama waded in on the shooting death of black teenager Trayvon Martin last year, he kick-started a debate on whether America could truly call itself a post-racial society. Now, making his first comments since a Florida court found Martin's assailant, George Zimmerman, not guilty of all charges last week, Obama felt his country had some soul-searching to do.
Trayvon Martin could have been me 35 years ago.
Leaving aside the debate on whether Martin was racially stalked and profiled, or his death was the result of a showdown between two guys which took a turn for the worse, Obama said black men could still get second-class treatment from their fellow citizens.
There are very few African-American men in this country who haven't had the experience of being followed when they were shopping in a department store. That includes me. There are very few African-American men who haven't had the experience of walking across the street and hearing the locks click on the doors of cars. That happens to me, at least before I was a senator.
But the US president said his daughters and their friends were the surest examples that future generations would grow up to embrace the diversity that exemplifies America.
Each successive generation seems to be making progress in changing attitudes when it comes to race. Doesn't mean we're in a post-racial society. It doesn't mean that racism is eliminated. But you know, when I talk to Malia and Sasha, and I listen to their friends and I see them interact, they're better than we are.
The bankruptcy filing of the U.S. city of Detroit is now the subject of legal wrangling as a Michigan state court judge ordered the bankruptcy petition withdrawn. According to the judge, Michigan Governor Rick Snyder violated the state's constitution when he approved the petition. Detroit's emergency bankruptcy manager Kevin Orr is expected to quickly appeal the ruling. Legal experts say the bankruptcy petition will go ahead while the legal case is being argued. And as Alan Buckner reports, the Michigan governor is trying to put a positive spin on Detroit's bankruptcy.
Rick Snyder said it was time to stop Detroit's downward spiral, and there was no viable alternative to solving the city's $18.5 billion debt.
What this does by going to bankruptcy court is give us one forum to say, let's address these issues in a thoughtful, deliberate fashion. And this has been done after going through a very deliberative process to come to that decision. Now's our opportunity to stop 60 years of decline.
Bankruptcy and those laws are there to actually be helpful. So Detroit will be able to eliminate, tens of billions of dollars worth of debt. For some businesses who've had maybe contracts with the city of Detroit or this, that might be, somewhat negative. With others, it could be business as usual.
Detroit's thousands of creditors could be looking at getting back just a fraction of the value of bonds they bought. And for retirees who invested in the city's pension fund, some who once put their lives on the line for the city, it could mean a substantial loss in their life savings.
Somebody dropped the ball, and now they want to blame, and it shouldn't be on the backs of retirees, that's for sure. They kicked the can down the road long enough, and they said, it's not my problem, I'll be out of office, I won't be there. And it's all catching up now. And I don't think it's right for us to have to take any hit. We paid our dues.
Alan Buckner, TVB News.
And still to come on our main news tonight, China launches 3 experimental satellites. Asiana crash victim killed by rescue vehicle. And a new leader after day 2 of the British Open.
Welcome back. China is celebrating another successful launch into space after 3 satellites aboard a Long March rocket blasted off today. The 3 orbiters will be used to carry out experiments to test hardware designed to repair equipment in space. They are the Chuangxin 3, Xi'an 7 and Shijian 15 satellites. It's the 179th launch of a long-range rocket, marking another step in China's ambitious space program.
Authorities in San Francisco say a teenage Chinese student who died in the Asiana Airlines crash was killed by a rescue vehicle. The San Mateo County Coroner's Office said 16-year-old Ye Mengyuan had survived the July 6th crash. Her injuries were consistent with being run over by a vehicle. It's unclear how she got out of the plane. She was covered in a blanket of foam that was being sprayed to try to keep the fire under control. Officials believe she was hit by a specialized fire truck. They said last week she'd been hit by a rescue vehicle, but couldn't confirm that's what killed her. Ye was one of 3 Chinese teenage girls who died in the disaster. The United States has announced the Israelis and Palestinians have agreed on a basis for returning to negotiations. The breakthrough comes after U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry held separate discussions with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
This is a significant and welcome step forward. The agreement is still in the process of being formalized, so we are absolutely not going to talk about any of the elements now. Today, however, I am hopeful. I'm hopeful because of the courageous leadership shown by President Abbas and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Both of them have chosen to make difficult choices here, and both of them were instrumental in pushing in this direction. We wouldn't be standing here tonight if they hadn't made the choices.
But not everyone seemed to share that sense of optimism. This week, this West Bank resident said there hadn't been any guarantee or commitment from the Israeli side for decades. So he expects nothing out of the talks.
And back locally, more than 1,000 applicants flocked to the Cathay Pacific City today for the airline's cabin crew recruitment drive. The company plans to recruit 700 flight attendants this year. João da Silva reports.
An average salary of between $17,000 and $18,000 for new recruits, plus a benefits package, means they keep coming. Candidates arrived early at the airline's headquarters to get a shot at one of the hundreds of job vacancies. But for some, it's about more than just the money.
Why do you want to be a flight attendant?
Because it's the job of my dream.
It's your dream?
Yes.
Since how old?
Yes, since 6.
Want to be a part of something big. And moreover, I just want to be a part of Cathay Pacific, you know. Yes, it's a very interesting job.
As for this candidate, he wants to get a chance to see the world and broaden his horizons. More than 1,000 candidates submitted applications, a turnout similar to last year. The airline explains that a high turnover rate is the reason why Cathay Pacific recruits in such large numbers. Language skills, polished manners and being in good physical shape are among the requirements to become one of the new 700 recruits. João da Silva, TVB News.
The construction industry is also looking for new recruits. The Construction Industry Council expects more workers to join the sector next year. The group today awarded prizes to 15 young professionals working in the trade. Vicky Kung has that story.
A ritual for those receiving training at the Construction Industry Council. Every year, they visit the Lo Pan Temple in Western District to honor Lo Pan, a legendary master of carpentry, masonry, and plastering in Chinese history. And today, the council hosted a Young Lo Pan Award ceremony to acknowledge outstanding young people working in the construction industry.
Almost 100% of our graduates are employed. Last year, we have about 3,000 graduates. This year, we aim at 8,000. That is in response to the demand of the industry.
Wong expects all the graduates this year to secure a job and start working soon. Students can obtain licenses that allow them to work on construction sites, and graduates can specialize in 28 different areas, such as bricklaying, floor laying, and plastering. One of those we talked to today said the pay is decent and there are career opportunities.
I think about 15,000 per month. Yeah. Many of the other kinds of the professionals also want to join our industry. I think the career development is much better.
If operations expenditure exceeds $1 million, contractors will have to pay a 0.5 levy on construction projects carried out in Hong Kong. The levy collected is managed by the Construction Industry Council, where they provide free trainings and allowances to attract more people to join the industry. Vicky Kung, TVB News.
All right, Tony, over to you for sports then.
That's right, we got topsy-turvy lead in the British Open. It's changing all the time. And we have a new leader. Spain's Miguel Angel Jimenez will take a one-stroke lead into the third round of the British Open. Windy conditions and rock-hard fairways and greens at Murfield are again testing the world's best golfers. Jameson Wong reports.
He's won at Fanling 3 times among his 20 or so professional victories. One fellow golfer called him perhaps the coolest man alive, citing his love of cigars and fine wine. His actual nickname is the Mechanic, and Miguel Angel Jimenez didn't blow a gasket like many of the players after another rough day at Muirfield. The 49-year-old followed up his opening round 3 under 68 with an even par 71, good enough for the lead at the halfway point. A quartet of golfers are only a stroke back, including 14-time major winner Tiger Woods. He hasn't won a big one in more than 5 years, but likes his chances entering the weekend.
I've put myself there. I just haven't won. I've had chances on the back nine on many of those Sundays, and just one of those things where I just haven't gotten it. Just kind of continue putting myself there.
Also at 2 under, 1 off the pace is Lee Westwood. He's hoping to become the first Englishman to win the Open Championship since Nick Faldo in 1992. Sir Nick missed the cut. Others going home early included Rory McIlroy, U.S. Open champion Justin Rose, and China's A. Shun Wu. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
Well, on to the other big sporting event in the UK, and the Ashes, of course. England are in command of the second test at Lord's following a collapse by Australia on day 2. The tourists were all out for 128 as England took a 233-run first innings lead. Australia lost 6 wickets for 54 runs in yesterday's afternoon session. The Aussie total was their lowest score at Lord's in 45 years. Graham Swan was one of the heroes as he took 5 wickets.
And finally for tonight, in Britain, the birth of the child who will be third in line to the throne is eagerly awaited. Buckingham Palace won't say anything officially until Kate Middleton is safely in the hospital. More from NBC News.
Bucklebury, Kate's hometown. That's where she started her day. Then came word she might be on the move. Not that anyone actually saw her. Could it be? Finally time for all those photographers waiting outside the hospital in London to jump on their ladders?
Well, I've had my spot marked up since the 1st of July. It's incredible.
Taxi drivers have given the road a new name.
Crazy Street. We're looking at everybody's tweets and we're sort of chasing each other to see if anybody knows more than the last person.
The slightest hint of news is enough to set hearts racing. So when these two walked up this afternoon, there were seasoned journalists who tweeted things like, "Kate's just gone in." Nope, they were just lookalikes sent over as a gag by the Sun newspaper. Oh, the shame of falling for it for a nanosecond, wrote CNN contributor Victoria Arbiter. When the baby does come, Prime Minister David Cameron will be among the first to know. So when an aide came into a cabinet meeting and handed him a scrap of paper, he told BBC Radio Today,
everyone, of course, thought it was the announcement about the royal baby, and there was a great intake of breath.
As the hours tick by, it's not just the Queen who wants this baby to arrive soon.
Kate the Great is 3 days late. I just can't wait for her to dilate.
But some Brits aren't quite so excited. Are your friends obsessed with this? Do they care?
Not really.
No?
Not so much.
Maybe once there's a newborn, the cynics will come around.
We're not a particularly patriotic nation day to day, but when events such as this happen, you know, like good or bad, we line up behind our royal family in a way that is really refreshing and actually really nice for quite a cynical nation.
OK, let's give you an update on our top story now. There are now reports a man detonated a package of black gunpowder used to make firecrackers in the explosion at the Beijing Capital International Airport this evening. It happened at Terminal 3. One person was reportedly hurt in the blast.
And that's the news for tonight. Thanks for watching.
Good night.
Hello everyone. It was mainly cloudy with showers and a few squally thunderstorms today. At 5 p.m, a broad trough of low pressure over the northern part of the South China Sea was bringing unsettled weather to the coast of Guangdong. Today's temperatures ranged from 26.2 to 29.7 degrees, and the current temperature is at 26.7 degrees Celsius. 3.4 millimeters of rain has been recorded since midnight. So Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow?
Oh.
Mainly cloudy with showers, a few squally thunderstorms tonight and tomorrow morning. Temperatures will range from 27 to 30 degrees. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 10 to 70 and the pollution level will range from low to high. The maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 5. Now, here's the latest global weather update. Showers in Taipei, cloudy in Xiamen. Rain in Guangzhou, showers in Macau. Cloudy in Beijing and Tokyo. Rain in Bangkok, Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Sunny intervals in Kuala Lumpur and Singapore. Cloudy in Karachi, rain in Mumbai. Sunny in Cairo, showers in Nairobi. Sunny intervals in Brisbane, sunny in Sydney and Auckland. Sunny in Toronto, sunny intervals in New York. Sunny in Vancouver, sunny intervals in San Francisco. Sunny intervals in London and Frankfurt, sunny in Amsterdam and Zurich. And that's the weather. Have a great evening.